the type of questions that you ask determines what people think about you. It also determines where you're going to go with it. Hello and welcome to Pillars of Wealth Creation, where we talk about creating financial success with a special focus on business and real estate. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer. Now, let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to Pillars of Wealth Creation. I'm your host, Todd Dexheimer, and excited for another episode. I want to talk about stupid questions, and I am a firm believer there are definitely stupid questions. You always hear, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Yeah, there's stupid questions. Maybe it's just stupid people asking stupid questions. I'm not sure. But here's the deal. I'm a big proponent of asking questions. Like, you got to ask questions. You're first starting out, you have to ask a ton of questions. Quite frankly, you've been in this business a long time. You have to ask good questions. You have to continue to ask questions. I think it's great to ask questions from people that are newer in the business, people that have been in the business for a long time, people that have been in the business for just as long as you. I think it's good to ask everybody questions, but I think stupid questions is bad. I don't think you should just be asking questions. I am a firm believer of thinking about the questions you ask. So what do I mean by that? Like, first of all, you have to determine what type of questions are going to actually help you moving forward. Don't just ask questions to take people's time. People don't want to give you their time for nothing, for no reason. So I think very first thing is make sure the questions you're asking is actually going to help you in the future. And you're actually going to take those answers and do something with them, process them, apply them, think about them, really take what is being told to you and utilizing it for how you're going to move forward in the future. So I think that's the first and foremost thing. Be respectful to those who you're asking questions by actually listening to the questions, by being thoughtful about the question that you give, and by truly implementing what you've learned from that question. And that's going to really help you set you up, because look, if I'm going to give you my advice and you're not going to do anything, and I see that, it's going to be a lot more challenging for me to come and continue just to give you advice. And I've had people that, I've met with, I've talked with on the phone, I've met with, and they do nothing with the advice I give them. They don't take any kind of action. And, first of all, it's a little bit sad, because we spent time with each other and you asked potentially even compelling questions or really good questions, but you did nothing with it. So that's sad. And first, but then I'm not motivated to meet with you again. And not that long ago, just a couple of weeks ago, I had somebody that wanted to meet with me, and I already met with that person. I talked with that person on the phone for probably 20, 30 minutes. We went to, we sat at a coffee shop and talked it was probably, I usually try to keep my coffee meetings to like 30 minutes. It was probably like closer to an hour. And that was several years ago. And that person reached out to me again and wanted to meet, but they haven't done anything. They're stuck. And it's like, you're in the same position as you were before. I gave you all this advice. I spent all this time with you. And you're a nice person, right? Don't get me wrong. That person's nice. And if they're listening to this, like, look, I appreciate you reaching out to me again. And I essentially told them this, like, look, I appreciate you reaching out to me again. At this point in time, it's going to be tough for me to meet. And I would like to see you implement the things that we talked about the last time. I think my advice would be essentially the same as it was before. So I don't know what they're going to do with that, but I don't have motivation to meet with them because they haven't taken the action. And maybe they have, but they didn't tell me any of the action that they took. So if you want to meet with people, you have to show them that you're actually respecting their advice, and you have to show them that you're taking the steps necessary to get you where you want to be. You answered the question. Okay, how have you? So if that person would emailed me and said, "Hey, we met a couple of years ago. You gave me some great advice. I've done X, Y, Z with that advice. I'm still kind of running into some roadblocks. Here's been what I've been dealing with. Here's the things that I've done." I maybe wouldn't have met with them again, but maybe would have spent a little bit of time crafting a response. All right. So what I think is the type of questions that you ask determines the what people think about you. They determines what people think about you, and it also determines where you're going to go with it within your business. So when I think about questions, I craft questions. So talking with real estate brokers, okay? I'm going to talk with the real estate broker. I want that real estate broker to take me serious. I want them to know that we are serious about purchasing multifamily properties in their market, and we are real buyers. But if I'm asking them dumb questions, they are going to think of me as a beginner, as a novice, as somebody who is just a tire kicker, as somebody who just can't perform on that property. But if I've got really well crafted questions for them, and by the way, within my questions, I have thoughtful dialogue within the questions. So one of the things that I like to do and tell people to do is, look, when you're in a new market, do your research, do your data research, understand what's happening in that market, understand as much as you possibly read all the broker literature, read everything about the economy, what's happening read everything about what the political environment is. Maybe the mayor or the government just passed something to help businesses come into the area, right? Whatever it might be, you want to know all that kind of stuff. And then when you're talking with that broker, you can tell them a little bit about what you know. And one of the things I like to do is I like to say, "Hey, really, we are looking to get into Cleveland, Ohio. We really love what's going on with the market. As we do our research and as we look at things, it looks like the growth is happening in the Southeast corridor, and rents are seemingly going up by 4.3%, and blah 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 blah." And then I like to ask questions based on that. Is what I just said true? Are you seeing the same thing? Hey, what other markets in Cleveland should we be looking at? Where do you see the greatest amount of opportunity? Because as I look at things, the Southeast looks like the strongest market. And they might go, "Hey, by the way, you looked at the Southeast. You're correct in your assumptions, but the Northwest corridor is seeing some sizable growth and is really running under the radar. You may want to look there," right? But this helps you look like an expert while also getting information from the broker. And so the last thing you want to do is go up to the broker and just go, "Hey, we're interested in Cleveland. Can you tell me about the market?" That's a terrible question. That's a stupid question. What do you mean tell you about the market? What do you want me to tell you about this market? So I want to ask detailed questions. I don't want to step over people with my questions. I don't want to sound arrogant with my questions. So I don't want to provide all these facts in my questioning to really not have a question. So you got to be careful with that. But you do want to posture yourself, show that you are knowledgeable while asking good, thoughtful questions that are going to provide you with really good information. So number one thing when asking questions, be prepared. be prepared and educate yourself. Truly understand the type of questions you're asking, and truly understand what you're asking about. Do your research and due diligence about things as much as you can so you can understand. First of all, it's not only to make yourself not look dumb, but it's to understand the answers. Because if I'm going to ask a question about something I have no knowledge about, the answer is going to just go right over my head. Like, why even ask that question about something? Now, you could say, hey, and I guess context all matters, right? If we're just having a conversation, somebody is talking about quantum theory or whatever, I don't know. It's like, hey, can you dumb that down for me? I don't even have a clue what you're talking about. That's different. But if we're talking a business context and we're trying to do business with people, especially, I really think to educate yourself prior to it and then ask more detailed questions to kind of dive in to the details. The other thing is really truly listen to others. I think that's so important when people are providing you answers or when other people are talking in the room. Really truly listen and dial in to understand, and not be thinking necessarily about the next question, but really working on understanding what they're talking about right now. So when I interview somebody for my podcast, it's I have to fight the urge of coming up with the next question. Now, I do that by writing thoughts down. So if somebody says something that's really interesting, I'm going to write that down. And then I'm going to continue to listen to that conversation. So I'm listening to that conversation. I'm writing good information down. And that allows me then to look at my notes real quick. By the way, I've listened in detail. And then I look at my notes and I go, oh yeah, I wanted to really I would really like to dive deep into this point that they said. So then I'll ask them a clarifying question or a further question on something they've already talked about, or maybe we just go in a completely different direction. But if I'm always thinking about my next question, I'm not truly listening to the answer that they're providing me. I'm not truly listening and understanding what they just said to me. I just grabbed one thing and decided that's what I want to talk about, right? And then the rest of it's just ignored, and I maybe missed the most important part. So I want to fight. I've always tried to fight that urge to interject or to ask or to be thinking about the question before somebody's completed. And I think it's easier to write things down. By the way, when I'm having a dialogue with, let's call it my wife or with friends, family, whatever, and I don't have notes in front of me, I'm really guilty of pre-thinking about my next question or pre-thinking about my next response to that person. So notes to me are really huge. And if I'm one-on-one with a person and I am going to write notes, I'm going to ask them, I'm going to tell them, hey, I'd like to grab my notebook if that's okay, and write some notes on what you're telling me. And I think most people are going to say, yeah, that's just fine, right? But just ask them first, of course. Learn how to learn. I think that's a super important thing. Learn how to learn and really ask these good questions, but have a baseline knowledge first and understand, and then always be surrounding yourself with people that are knowledgeable, and you're going to become a lot more knowledgeable as well. So, yeah, so there's dumb questions, definitely, but think before you talk and position yourself the right way, and you'll be fine. Look at it in a business setting. You don't necessarily need to know everything. And that's not what this is all about. But you do need to, I think, have some baseline knowledge before you start asking too many questions I think it's really helpful. Okay. So that's one thing. One more thing I want to talk about is just stop doing the one thing that's been holding you back, or maybe the multiple things, but there's one or two things that are holding you back from being excellent, and stop doing that one thing, make that your focus, or to replace it with something else. So maybe it's that you're just not focused during the day. Well, why aren't you focused during the day? I don't know. You're mindlessly scrolling on social media. You're watching TV. You're text messaging, or you're scrolling through your emails, or whatever it might be. But if that's the case, if you are losing focus, too much focus during the day, you need to figure out what the symptoms are, like what's happening, and then you need to figure out how to replace that with something productive, something that's going to be helpful. Maybe the one thing is that you're eating poorly. Okay, well, that one's a fairly easy one. Okay, what am I eating that's bad? How do I eat good stuff? Right. And then focus on that. And maybe that's what's causing your distraction. I don't know. So look, you have to figure out what, and by the way, maybe you say there's 5 things that are holding me back. I don't know, this and this and this and this. Okay, what can you control? Okay. Pick what you can control. Pick one thing and focus on that for right now. And just one thing. And you might, and the one most important thing, what's the most important part? Because look, if you're like, hey, I'm eating bad, I'm not exercising, I'm always distracted, blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe you go, if I could change just one thing, what would it be? Well, and by the way, like what do I think is potentially causing all those things? Oh, well, geez, I've just been eating them terribly. I think that might be it. Okay, then focus on that and just eat properly and focus on that. And maybe that fixes the exercise. Maybe that gets you motivated to exercise. Maybe that gets you motivated to get off of social media, to stop drinking, to stop watching TV, all those kinds of things, sleeping in, blaming other people, whatever it might be. That's holding you back. So that one thing might be it. And so now if you change that, it can snowball and affect everything else. Or maybe it's that you need to exercise, whatever it might be. Pick the one thing that's you think is holding you back. And I guarantee everybody has that today. Like, even if you're crushing it right now, there's something that's holding you back from getting to that next level. There's something stopping you from going to the next level. And I bet this is the case for almost everybody, and not almost, just everybody. Like, even people that you think are just crushing it or absolute high performers, there's something holding them back from the next level. And focus on that one thing and how to change it. And you're going to do better. Once you can get that under control. So again, let's go with the unhealthy. Once you can get that under control, now you can take the next step. Okay, what is out there for me? And maybe that's the exercise. Maybe you didn't start exercising. Okay, let's continue to eat healthy, and let's add the exercise, wherever it might be. All right. So that's all that's on my mind today. Ask smart questions, not dumb questions, and then stop doing the things that are really holding you back. Figure out the one thing today to be able to change, to be able to take the right steps forward. I'm Todd Dexheimer. That's all I got for today. You have a fantastic rest of the day. Make every day a Saturday. Hey, thanks so much for listening. I appreciate you being a loyal listener. I would love to have you go on to our Facebook page and subscribe, give us a thumbs up, go on to iTunes or wherever you listen and give us a rating and review. Don't forget to subscribe. Your rating and review just helps us push this out to more and more people and continue to grow our audience and hopefully positively affect a ton of people out there that really need this and want this. So The other thing I've got for you is a free ebook on my website. So go on to venturedproperties.com, and download our free ebook on real estate and on syndication. And I've got some data points in there, some really good stuff for you. So I'd love to have you take a look at that. It's free. I'm not expecting anything from it. And also, look, if you want some help in multifamily, want some help learning, growing, getting your business off the ground, I would love to talk to you about what it would look like to work with me potentially and see if that's a good fit. So you can go to coachwithdex.com and check that out, and we can definitely have a call. Thanks a lot for listening. You make it a fantastic rest of the day. I'll catch you on the next episode.